Hello, welcome to Locked on Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of 100-point defensemen. He did it, guys. So today's episode of Locked on Sharks, we're going to discuss about Erik Karlsson hitting 100 points, Tristan Robbins making his debut, the Sharks getting thrashed, and Magnus Chrona signing his ELC. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked on Sharks.
You're Locked on Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now. I want to thank you guys for making Locked on Sharks your first listen. You subscribe or follow for free wherever you get podcasts. And of course, make sure you guys are following along on YouTube. That way you know when the latest episodes come out. And Erik Karlsson has done it, becoming the first defenseman in 31 years to score 100 points in a season. So we're going to talk about what that means for Karlsson, where Karlsson kind of fits in the defenseman rankings, kind of just discuss Karlsson's season, look at some other potential milestones he might hit. We're going to talk, of course, about Tristan Robbins' debut, Sharks getting absolutely curb stomped by the Jets, and then finish up with Magnus Crona's signing his ELC and what this kind of means for the Sharks goalies going forward. So before we get into all that, I do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you guys by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. He did it, guys. Erik Karlsson propagandists rise up as he has done something that only 6 other humans have done, or 5 other humans, he being the 6th one, have done. He hit 100 points with his 2 goals. Now sits at the season 25 goals, 75 assists, 100 points. Not a math guy, but 25% of his points are goals, 75% are assists. Thank you, Karlsson, for making it easy for us idiots. But I know the Sharks season has been a long and terrible season, and there's been some flashes, William Eklund playing well and Timo Meier, 90-point Timo Meier potentially, but Erik Karlsson has been the story of the Sharks this season, and just the way he has performed this year, especially on a team that is devoid of a lot of talent, and the way he's put this team on his back at times and been the best player on the ice most nights. When Brian Leetch did this 91-82, I was 7. Like, this is how long I'm going to be turning 38 here in a couple of weeks. This is how long it has been. I'm sure a lot of you, my listeners, a lot of you guys probably weren't even born, or you were small children when Brian Leetch did this last. This is something that just doesn't happen. And I proposed which was more incredible yesterday, Erik Karlsson's 100 or McDavid's 150. And Kyle, friend of the show, Kyle texted me about it. We were getting, back and forth about it. And, he took the McDavid side. And my thing with Karlsson, he's had to do this all by himself, right? I know the Sharks had Timo Meier for a while, but, they haven't had Timo Meier since the end of February. And he's still been ticking, still been producing. Just absolutely bonkers what he's doing. I know the Norris, there's going to be a lot of debate about the Norris, well, his defense, et cetera, et cetera. He's done something we haven't seen, again, in 31 years. It's not like a lot of people have done this. So in actual terms of so this is the 15th total season in NHL history where a defenseman has scored at least 100 points. So Bobby Orr did it a bajillion times. Paul Coffey, Al McGinnis, Brian Leetch, Dennis Potvin are the only other ones. So Karlsson's at 100 points right now. He has a chance to kind of move up. He's sitting at 15th all time for points by defenseman. If he gets one more, he'll tie Potvin and Orr for 13th at 101. If he gets 2 more, he'll tie Brian Leetch for 12th all time. And then if he gets 3 more, he'll tie Paul Coffey and Al McInnes, and that'll be for 10th all time. And then there's a big gap to 113. So 2 games left. Playing Calgary, who's fighting for their playoff life. They may be eliminated by the time you hear this. We'll see. And then they play Edmonton, who's pretty much going to be kind of locked in, I think, by the time they play. So chance for Karlsson, I mean, I think 1 of 3 feels about right for him. I think 3 points in the next 2 games kind of feels about right. So that's going to be my official guess right now. So I think he ends the season with 1 of 3. If he plays these last 2 games, him and Logan Couture will be the only Sharks players who played every game this season. Absolutely outstanding going into this season. For me, if you get 75 games out of Erik Karlsson, I think that's a win. And he's going to have played every single game for the Sharks this year, pending. I don't think he would sit out the last 2. That would be brutal. I would just feel really bad. But if Erik Karlsson plays the last 2 games, I think this season will have been an absolute win for him and what we think of Erik Karlsson. I know a lot of fans, and there's still a lot of fans out there who thinks he's overrated and et cetera, and not worth his contract. But again, Erik Karlsson's really good at hockey. So couple other just little Sharks related notes. So for Erik Karlsson, kind of where he could potentially finish. So for points, he is second. He's not going to catch Joe Thornton as 114 points. That's just not going to happen, unfortunately. He could potentially catch Brent Burns with goals for a defenseman. So Brent Burns does have the Sharks record with 29. He would need 4, so it's probably maybe a little bit out of reach for that. And then Brent Burns also does 27, so he could potentially tie that, but probably a little bit out of reach for there. Assist, he's second right now in an assist. Joe Thornton's 92. He's not going to do that for the final season. So couple goals here. If he gets 2 more, he'll tie Brent Burns for second most goals by a defenseman in a season. He already has the total goals on ice for this season. He has the Sharks record. He was on the ice for 147 goals this year, surpassing Brent Burns, who had 142. It's just absolutely ridiculous, like just what he's doing this year. Yeah, he's really good, and this is going to be a season that we're going to be kind of looking back and talking about like what he did this year and just how special the season will go down in Sharks lore, is just how special of a year it's been for Erik Karlsson. And even if Thursday is his last game in a Sharks jersey, what a way to go out, being a 100-point scorer, probably going to be winning the Norris this year. I will be fighting people. The EK65 propagandists will be, we will be in full force to make sure that that Norris is coming back to San Jose, at least for a time being. So congrats to Erik Karlsson. Special shout out to Logan Couture, 700 points in Teal. Just fourth all time in Sharks. It's interesting how Logan Couture is going to fit into Sharks fandom or Sharks lore as we continue to wind down his career, but just keeps on ticking. We'll plenty of time to talk about Logan Couture this offseason, but Erik Karlsson's day today as the Sharks, he scores the only 2 goals for the Sharks, which seems very fitting. So before we get into the game, look at how the Jets absolutely trounced the Sharks. Talk about Tristan Robbins' debut, and then we'll finish up with Magnus Crona. Do want to take a quick break, talk to you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. Grand slams, no hitters, double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Place your first bet and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. I'm always going to tell you just to bet on Aaron Judge hitting a home run, because I think you're going to probably feel pretty good about that going forward. So, or bet on Arson Judge if you prefer to bet on Arson Judge. So you feel it, make your choice between those two. So don't miss your chance to get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. All right. Sharks lost 6-2. This Jets team, desperate Jets team, and we saw that tonight. Sharks got out with, of course, scoring the first goal. And then from there, the Jets looked like a team that knew their playoff lives were on the line. And if they lost tonight, it would have been devastating for them. So I think their magic number was now 1 point with 2 games left, where if they get a point, they're in the playoffs type of situation. So they knew what they had to do against an inferior team, especially an inferior team who's kind of smacked them around or beat them the last 2 times. I don't know, smacked them around, but beat them the last 2 times. So it was an important night for Winnipeg to kind of put down the hammer, show that you're a playoff team, and they did just that. Some of these numbers are absolutely startling. Not as bad as that 6-0 game against Colorado, but they're not much better. So 5-on-5, the Jets had 65 shot attempts to the Sharks 29. In the first period alone, the Jets had 32 shot attempts. The Sharks had 29 shot attempts in the entire game at 5-on-5. The Jets had 32 in the first period. It doesn't get much prettier from there. Actual shots was 31-13 at 5-on-5. Scoring chances was 36-15. High danger chances was 16-4. Expected goals for was 4.22 to 1.29. The Jets deserved every goal they got tonight. And yeah, this game was not close at all. We'll start with the goalie and kind of work up to the forward lines, because the forward lines were a hot mess tonight too, especially after the first 18 minutes. Reimer, 59-30 time on ice. Got for power plays. The Sharks had a fair amount of power plays tonight with 4, but shots against 33, saves 27, goals against 6, expected goals against 4, 5-1, 8-18 save percentage. Faced 8 high danger chances, 6 saves, 2 goals against, 13 mid danger, 9 mid danger saves. That's usually not what you want to see right there, but Reimer was under siege all night. I mean, you guys saw it was Winnipeg was just going to do whatever they wanted tonight to win this game, because they knew how important this game was for them. As for the forward lines, again, they were really scrambled, especially after the first period. So how they started, and then I'll just go with how they started first, and then we can dig into the actual numbers behind them. So Hertl moved up to wing to play with Couture with Jacob Peterson. Then he has Svechnikov, Lawrence LeBanc, Steven Lorentz, 2C. That is, yes. Noah Gregor, Nico Sturm, Fabian Zetterlund. Then you have Bordelot, Robbins, Raska. And then on defense, Thrun and Karlsson, Ferraro, Benning, Knizhov, McDonald, and then Reimer started. Tough night all around for the lines. So the only line that stuck together was the Peterson, Hertl, Couture line, and they got work tonight. Again, none of these numbers are going to look pretty, especially with the way the Jets played tonight. So they played almost 12 minutes together, 6 shot attempts, gave up 15. Actual shots was 2-5, gave up a goal, did have a goal. Thank you, Erik Karlsson at the beginning. 0.3 expected goals for, allowed 1 expected goal, which is a lot for expected goals. And then we had, Gregor, Robbins, LeBanc played 6-19 together. 4 shot attempts, gave up 10. 1 actual shot, gave up 6. 0.05 expected goals, 4.24. Again, just numbers aren't pretty there. Svechnikov, Lawrence, LeBanc played 351. Had a shot, gave up 6 attempts. Actual shots was 1-3. We had Zetterlund, Sturm, Gregor played 322. 0 shots, 4, gave up 7 attempts. That is, sorry. Svechnikov, Sturm, Raska had played 307. 1 gave up 4. So we'll start with the young guys. So Tristan Robbins, you saw some positive things. out there, but I think definitely got hemmed in his own zone. And I was interested to see the way Quinn kind of put up the Barracuda kids, let those guys give it a shot. But then after the first period wasn't even over before they broke them up. And I think that kind of goes like, it's fun and easy for us to talk about, like, yeah, just put all the Cuda kids together, go let them go play. And it's like on that line, you had Bordeleau, who was the most experienced NHLer with like what 15, 16, 17 games, somewhere in there. Rasko's played 7 games, and then Tristan Robbins just played 1, I think. And none of those guys are the biggest guys, and I know that's a concern with some players, but I think it was just a lot to ask for those guys to kind of go out there and try to hold their own on a line. I think it's better to, again, I know the Sharks are kind of, it's the end of the season. You're just trying to get some of these guys some ice time right now, but I would be interested to see how long we keep Hurdle on the wing. I don't know if this is just an experiment, maybe going into next year. But having, a Hurdle, Peterson, Bordeleau. Okay. I know Peterson's been around for a little bit. He's played, he's played almost a full season of NHL games. And then a Couture, LeBanc, Robbins, like kind of give these young guys some experience on the line. That way they don't have to kind of hold their own out there. And so, and again, tonight, I mean, the Jets were just out there on a mission to dominate. I don't know, no matter how you configure their lines tonight ahead, I don't think the Sharks were going to have much of a chance, especially again, the Jets on a mission. They could see the playoffs within. So I'm going to try not to kind of overreact to these guys kind of getting steamrolled against a team that is literally fighting for their playoffs lives right now. So, and they know how important these 2 points were for them. So, you saw some positive things. I like the shot he took. He was physical. You could see that. Definitely going to have to continue to become, work like all the young guys, Eklund included, working on their bodies and getting more kind of NHL ready. So, but I expect this is going to be great for Robbins, though, kind of get this taste, know what he has to do during the summer. And then next year when he's the guy, I think he's going to be the guy on the Barracuda next year. Like it is going to be like, he's going to be the 1C type of, like, he's going to be the guy for Barracuda. Just going down and just having him and Gushin just having like a dominant season for the Barracuda. My guest tomorrow talks about overdevelopment and how you could just never overdevelop guys. And I think for a guy like Robbins and Gushin and Bordeleau, I think Bordeleau now starts next year on the Barracuda. Plenty of time to get into that more, but these guys, letting them go marinate another season or half a season with the Barracuda and really kind of find that next level for them. So, still, it was awesome to see his family there. I love the picture with his family all wearing the different Robbins jerseys. There was a cool Pac-Man one that with like the Blades logo. That one was easily my favorite. But great for him. Well deserved to make the NHL. Only going to go up from here. And so the future is bright, guys. The future is very bright. So before we finish, we're going to talk about Magnus Crona, what this means for the Sharks, kind of look at their goalies heading into next year. Do want to take a quick break. Talk to you guys about, of course, the Locked On Game to Game NHL. Thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Now, your second listen, go check out the Game to Game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result, Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis only Locked On can deliver. Now's the best time to get in, especially with the playoffs coming up. Missing all the playoff games, you want to know exactly what's going on. You're bandwagoning a team. Great time to kind of pick your team, learn more about them, especially with the Locked On Game to Game. So follow Game to Game, Locked On NHL, available on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. All right, finally, Sharks, of course, signed Magnus Crona. Easily the best name of professional hockey now. Like it's not even close. So Quick reminder, Magnus Crona, the Sharks acquired him way back in the day for one Frederick Claesson from the Tampa Bay Lightning back in April 2021 at the trade deadline. So Magnus Crona spent the last couple years playing. So he was an NCAA prospect. He's been playing for the University of Denver, 2021-2022 season. Of course, he won the national championship with them, being the kind of the backbone of that team. So Swedish-born kid, kind of played over in Sweden, worked his way up through the J20s, and then came over to NCAA. He's basically been the guy for Denver since he came over. His 1920 season, his first year, he played 27 games, had a 215 goals against average, 920 save percentage. 2020, 2021 in the bubble or the COVID year, kind of much shorter season. He played 18 games, 247 goals against average, 907. That was his worst season with University of Denver. Last year, not this season I just finished, the 2021-2022 season, played 37 games, had a 211 goals against average and a 911 save percentage. And then this year with University of Denver, 32 games played, 219 goals against average, and 916 save percentage. So what does this kind of mean for the Sharks going forward? So under contract next year, here are all the goalies the Sharks have under contract next year. It's tough, guys. It's a lot. So hang on 1 second here as I get ready to go through them all. So Kaapo Kähkönen has 1 year, $2.75 million left on his contract. And Magnus Crona. Those are the only goalies that the Sharks have under contract. So his contract doesn't start till next year. So that doesn't mean the Sharks have no goalies. Eetu Mäkiniemi and Strauss-Mann are both RFAs. I assume they will both be back, especially Mäkiniemi. I know he ended this. This is 2 years in a row now that he's ended injured. So you worry about the injury bug there a little bit, but he did show some promise. He's 23. He was a big part of the Brent Burns trade. And then Strauss-Mann, 24. Interesting to see kind of where these guys slot in. I assume they're going to give Mäkiniemi the chance to kind of win the Barracuda job, kind of be the number one goaltender, and then let the Strauss-Mann and Magnus Crona be kind of fight it out for that second position. And then whoever kind of loses that will go to, I assume, if it's Wichita or whoever the Sharks ECHL. I hope it's Wichita again. Wichita seems like a fun organization. So that's kind of where those guys will stack up. The Sharks still are going to have to find either a 1B or starter or someone to play with Kaapo Kähkönen going into next year. Plenty of time to talk about it. I think they go the veteran route. I know people are like, why not just give it to Mäkiniemi or let one of these guys fight out? We've seen that's just not how Mike Grier does things, right? He could have done that for William Eklund this year and just let him start in the NHL. Could have done that for a lot of these guys, but he wants these young guys to kind of take the job. And right now, any of these goalies can't even take the job from Aaron Dell, who's basically started every game for the Barracuda the last 3 weeks at this point. If they're not beating Aaron Dell right now, I don't think they're going to be ready to take an NHL job next year, and it's fine. They're young. They're going to continue to develop. I wouldn't be surprised if Mäkiniemi's playing some more NHL games next year if he comes back healthy. Everything goes according to plan. But Mäkiniemi, I think, is kind of your next guy. And then actually, I think Magnus Crona might jump Strauss-Mann just because if college numbers are pretty comparable, but I think, Magnus Crona just kind of brings a different element. 6'6", he's a big boy. 6'6", big boy, very technical sound. He's going to have, going to need some more just reps. And that's the big thing with goalies is just getting those reps right now. But he just brings a size that the Sharks just do not have in their goalie pipeline right now. So I think we'll see middle April right now. I think Crona wins the backup job with the Barracuda next year. And then Strauss-Mann. But again, those guys could flip flop, and that it could be one of those things where maybe they're taking turns. One guy spends a month in ECHL, then one guy's at the Barracuda, and maybe they flip flop type of situation. So who knows? There's plenty of ways to figure it out and get these. The best thing is getting these guys starts and getting them that's the best way to develop. It's just playing for these young goalies. So I'm excited with Crona. I think his upside is probably a backup goalie type of situation, maybe a 30 to 35 game starter a couple years from now. But again, there's a little worry that he wouldn't sign with the Sharks, but I think the Sharks they've got an NHL caliber goalie, I think, out of Magnus Chrona. So it'll be fun to continue to track, kind of see where he fits in with the Sharks goalie pipeline. As for their other goalies, I would expect Bopit's going to be back in Winnipeg with the Winnipeg Ice. Ben Gaudreau, I think he can go back one more year. So he's 20. I'm pulling up his thing right now. He just turned 20. So he can go back and play one more season with Sarnia next year, depending on how many veterans, and because you can only have X amount. Like I think you have 3 20-year-olds on your team. So I would expect him to be back in Sarnia next year. No need to rush. He's had a really, really good second half of his season for Sarnia, and they're moving on to the second round of the playoffs in the OHL. So again, can't overdevelop some of these guys. So, or if he wants, maybe they send him to Europe or something like that. If he doesn't want to play with Sarnia, or they can't, or he gets traded in the OHL. There's plenty of paths for Ben Gaudreau to get some play time next year. So, yeah. Be back tomorrow. Ben Jordan on from Smart Scouting. We discuss Riley Height. So really fun conversation with him. And then we talk about the OHL versus the WHL and why the WHL kind of seems to be taking the lead when it comes to developing kind of top end prospects. A really fun conversation with him, making his first appearance on Locked On Sharks, and definitely will not be his last appearance. So then that will be it for the week. We'll be back on Monday, taking the rest of the week off to enjoy some much needed vacation. Going to try to unplug for a little bit. So thank you, Erik Karlsson, for scoring your 100 point tonight before I go on vacation. You're the best. So make sure you guys follow along. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryhole. Follow or subscribe wherever you get podcasts, and of course on YouTube as well. That way you guys know exactly when the latest episode is going to happen. And until next time, bye, friends.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the